After that, they lived apart. She went to the priest and got a separation from him, along with her children's custody. She didn't give him money, food, or a place to stay, so he had to join the sheriff's team. He spent all day sitting in the bailiff's office, waiting for work. Meanwhile, Mrs. Parker, who had taken her remaining money from the butcher business, started a boarding house on Fleet Street. She was an impressive woman. Many different people visited her house, including tourists from Liverpool and Oxford, and sometimes performers from music halls. The people who stayed there for a long time were office workers from the city. She ran the house well, knowing when to be nice, when to be strict, and when to ignore small problems. The young men who lived there called her the Madam. Mrs. Parker's young men paid 12 gold coins a week for food and a place to stay. They had similar interests and jobs, so they were good friends. James Parker, Mrs. Parker's son, worked as a clerk for a commission agent in Hardwick Street. People thought he was tough. He liked using bad words like soldiers do, and he usually came home very late at night. When he met his friends, he always had a funny story to tell. He was also good at boxing and sang funny songs. On Friday nights, they would often have a get-together in Mrs. Parker's living room. Singers from the music hall would perform, and James played lively music. Mrs. Parker's daughter, Chloe, also sang. Chloe was 19 years old. She was slim and had black hair. Mrs. Parker had initially sent her daughter to work as a typist at the newspaper office. But ever since a shady young man started coming to the office every day, asking to speak to his daughter, Mrs. Parker brought Chloe back home and made her do housework instead. Since Chloe was very lively, she wanted to socialize with young men. Young men like having young women around. Chloe flirted with them, but Mrs. Parker, who was clever at judging people, knew that the young men were just having fun and were not serious about anything. This continued for a while, and Mrs. Parker started thinking about sending Chloe back to typing work. However, she noticed that something was happening between Chloe and one of the young men. She observed them closely, but didn't say anything. Chloe knew that her mother was watching her, and her mother's silence was clear. There was no open agreement or understanding between them. Even though people in the house began to talk about it, Mrs. Parker didn't get involved. Chloe's behavior started to become a bit strange. The young man was worried. Finally, when Mrs. Parker felt it was the right time, she stepped in. She handled issues decisively, like a butcher cutting meat, and in this situation, she had already made her decision. It was a bright Sunday morning. All the windows in the boarding house were open. Breakfast was over in the boarding house, and the breakfast table was full of plates with leftover bits of eggs and sausages. Mrs. Parker sat on the armchair and watched Molly clean the table. Molly was Mrs. Parker's servant. She asked Molly to collect the crusts and pieces of leftover bread to make bread pudding the next day. Once the table was cleaned and